Look at your life right now. Feel the stiffness, the weight, that cold sensation that no matter how much you achieve, you're living a life that isn't truly yours. Many call it a midlife crisis, burnout, or depression. Carl Jung called it the Nigredo, the darkening, the moment when life grows dense and you realize the man you have become, the old man within you, is dying. But what if I told you that your deepest pain is not a sign of failure, but the command of an archetype? What if your crisis is in truth the last chance your soul gives you to become whole? This journey is not about what you will do tomorrow, but about what you must allow to die today. This is the story of the last day of the old man. We're not speaking of physical death, but of a symbolic death, the destruction of the part of you built on fear and falsehood. The old man is your ego, clinging to your persona. He is the sum of rules, titles, and social expectations you accepted to be accepted. He is the man who betrays you, who keeps you small and safe, yet stole the key to your soul. Jung teaches us, symbolic death is the moment when the soul demands the end of superficial living. It is an alchemical process where raw matter, your rigid ego, must break apart so the self, your divine total essence, can finally emerge. What do you gain by allowing this death? You gain the only thing that truly matters, wholeness. You gain the path of individuation. You become the man who unites mind and heart, light and shadow, outer success and inner truth. The price of this new life is mourning the old one, but the promise remains unshakable. Wholeness is your destiny. In this narrative, we will enter the pain of the collective shadow that shaped you, watch your ego fight for its survival, and give you the exact step-by-step map to cross this symbolic death and witness the rebirth of yourself, the new man. If you feel this urgent calling, this pain-demanding transformation, know this: you cannot walk through this portal alone. Subscribe now to Shadow Work Stories, leave your like, and let's discover together the transformative power of symbolic death. The old man is dying, but what does he hide behind the mask that makes him cling so tightly to his own ruin? We speak of symbolic death as the command of the soul. But before this death can take place, we must understand what is dying. The old man, whose greatest weapon is the persona. The persona, as Carl Jung explains, is the psychological mask we wear to meet the world. It is necessary. Without it, we would be unbearably exposed. It is your professional title, your reputation, your role as the ideal father, the strong leader. It is your calling card. The problem is not having a persona. The problem is believing you are the persona. When the mask fuses to the skin, when the old man becomes a dictator, governing your life through society's demands, not the needs of your soul. You trade your authenticity for social approval. This tyranny has a devastating cost: fragmentation. To maintain the persona of success and control, the old man must exile everything society calls weak, instinctive, or sinful. He builds a divided life, one half allowed into the light, the other thrown into the shadow. The collective dogma of your culture, your family, your profession, pushed you toward being excessively rational, structured, masculine, the principle of logos. And so the old man fears the untamable force of eros, intuition, deep feeling, vulnerability. The result: life becomes a repository for everything you refuse to accept in yourself. This, Jung tells us, is the collective shadow. You become a facade, and the old man becomes the relentless guard who keeps your true self from stepping forward. But the soul never stays silent. When the imbalance between persona and self grows unbearable, the Nigredo begins, the darkening, the alchemical stage of putrefaction. The old man senses he is losing control, and the outer world starts mirroring his inner chaos. The crisis doesn't come to destroy you, but to crack the mask. The persona stops working. What once made you feel safe now makes you anxious. Your success no longer brings joy. Your routine feels like a prison. This is the crucial moment. The collective shadow that shaped you, the social fear of weakness, the fear of failure, begins to project onto you the terror of collapse. The old man tries to assert himself, saying, "There is no danger in my rules. The danger is in the chaos." But the chaos is only Eros demanding its freedom. You are forced to carry the archetypal weight of your own repression. Your pain is literally the pain of every moment you called your intuition madness and your power excessive. The psychological survival of the old man depends on one thing. He must disqualify you. He must prevent you from seeing yourself as whole, as the bearer of totality. He allows you to see only the mirror of his own guilt and repressed desire. For Jung, this disqualification is a defense mechanism, the ego refusing to face its blind spots. Instead, it attributes every unwanted trait to the crisis, to the external world, to anything but itself. This is why crisis becomes the catalyst for individuation. The persona, crushed by life's pressure, forces the old man into his own unconscious to find a source of truth immune to external judgment. The old man has lost the map. The forced separation pushes him to internalize wholeness. What he seeks to punish is exactly what the soul is ready to integrate. But to do this, he must kill the inner dictator and prove to himself that his strength is equal to his intuition. This proof depends on confronting his own animus. The old man is your rigid persona, the tyrant who forces you to hide your truth. And now the universe is ready to intervene. The catalyst of your symbolic death is the moment life refuses to sustain the lie you agreed to live. Crisis, bankruptcy, divorce, physical collapse is not a mistake. It is an archetypal command. It forces the old man to face the cruelest of splits, the endless war between the truth of yourself and the lie of your imposed persona. You were trying to carry the message of the soul's totality, but society and your ego reduced your soul to a fraction, the strong one, the perfect one, the indestructible one. This split is your cross. Culture and dogma stole your right to human complexity. The old man tries to hold on. He tries to fix the crisis with the very rules that created it. If I work harder, if I become more logical, if I control my emotions, the mask will work again. But it's too late. The ego is no longer permitted to be a dictator. Yet within this extreme conflict lies the key to your power. Your crisis is not a tragedy. It is the catalyst for individuation. You were attacked so violently by the collective shadow, the demands of your environment, that you were forced to dive deep into your unconscious. Why? To find a source of truth immune to external judgment. Your inner world becomes your battlefield and your temple. You are not only grieving what you lost, you are confronting, for the first time, the enormous lie that society used to separate you from your soul. The forced separation from the master, the job, the status, the relationship that held your projections, and the isolation that followed, compelled you to internalize totality. The psychic energy you once projected outward, onto success, onto recognition, must now be drawn inward. Listen closely. What the world wanted to punish in you, your soul is ready to integrate. The world wanted you divided, your soul demands you whole. Your final act of courage, the act that kills the old man, is not confronting dogma publicly, but withdrawing the collective shadow from your own identity. You must purify your sense of self. You must separate yourself from the collective shadow. This means you are not your failure. You are not your mistake. The label of weak, broken, or too emotional is not yours. It is merely the projection of society's fear of being human. By withdrawing this shadow, you begin the rescue of your own truth. You reclaim your instincts, your emotions, your sexuality, all the parts the old man condemned. You accept the dark, not to be punished by it, but to integrate the strength it holds. But withdrawing the shadow is not enough. To carry the message of totality, to let the old man die completely, you need a final certainty. You need to prove to yourself that your intuition, eros, is as valid as the law, logos. You must confront the animus, the masculine principle within your own soul, to prove yourself worthy of the truth you've received. The wisdom of your heart needs a voice with authority. This trial is about to unfold on the most intimate battlefield, your own inner world. The unshakable authority you seek can never come from the outside. It must rise from the integration of your inner masculine. If the ego lost external authority, the soul must build the internal one. What did the old man fear in your animus? He feared true spiritual authority. Now, let us witness how integrating this principle transforms you into the archetype of the whole woman, whole man, and why this is the key to your rebirth. You have withdrawn the collective shadow and confronted the lie of your persona. But the old man still holds one final card: the doubt surrounding your own gnosis, the intuitive knowing that lives in your heart. Reason demands proof. The heart already knows. To carry the message of wholeness, you need an unshakable certainty, a source of authority that cannot be questioned, not even by the skeptics around you. That authority can arise only from the integration of your inner masculine. In Jungian terms, the animus is the masculine aspect of the inner psyche, the principle of reason, discernment, and the impulse to act. It is your spiritual authority, your ability to give structure to the truth you feel. Society, through the old man within you, tried not only to repress your eros, intuition, feeling, your anima, but to disqualify your animus as well. Dogma insisted that truth could reach you only through external power or a male intermediary. Your task is immense. You must validate your intuitive knowledge, your gnosis, in the presence of logos, the external law, the cold, rational voice of the world. Your animus cannot remain passive. It must be integrated, transformed, awakened. The strength you use to assert your inner truth, to stand against dogma, is not superficial rebellion. It is the masculine principle in your soul claiming its birthright. You no longer seek the approval of your boss, your father, your partner. You seek the approval of your own mind. You need your inner reason to confirm the truth your heart, eros, already carried. This integration is what sets you apart. This inner union is what allows wholeness. Your relationship with the catalyst of your crisis, the master, the event that transformed you, must now be seen through the lens of individuation. It was never romantic nor hierarchical, but archetypal. The catalyst appeared as an image of the self, the bridge uniting opposites, masculine and feminine, reason and intuition, body and spirit. The depth of that connection allowed you to witness transformation on a level beyond the physical, the level of the soul. You don't need historical proof. You carry psychological proof. Your animus is strong enough to see that what died was the body, the ego, but the archetype lives. You see the pattern behind the event, the wholeness it symbolized. This new strength is the catalyst of your own authority. You are no longer a passive follower, but an active bearer of truth. By integrating your animus, you become the first apostle of your soul's resurrection, the only one capable of carrying the message to those still trapped in the logic of loss and judgment. The integration of animus and anima, the masculine and feminine within, transforms you into the archetype of the whole woman, whole man. You do not oppose your rational mind. You absorb it, balance it. Your wisdom becomes complete. Your power becomes internal, and therefore untouchable by death or dogma. The world still demands that you return to weakness, to your old posture of submission. But you have received the kind of proof only the soul can give. You are ready to carry the message. And yet one doubt remains. If you integrate this strength, will you become as rigid, as isolated, as the dogma that once condemned you? Your mission now is to prove that authority, animus, can coexist with compassion, anima. You must be the first to show that true strength lives in wholeness. And this test, the test of holding your intuitive truth intact under the pressure of skeptical reason, will manifest at the very moment you attempt to grasp the proof of your own faith. You have proven your worth to yourself, but as you reach out to touch the proof of your faith, you will hear the most enigmatic words, words that will seal your destiny and separate you forever from the world's understanding. Noli me tangere, do not touch me. What does this prohibition mean for your autonomy? You have integrated the strength of your animus and stepped into wholeness. Yet the moment you reach for the proof of your faith, for the figure who catalyzed your transformation, you hear the most enigmatic words, Noli me tangere, do not touch me. On the literal level, it sounds like a prohibition, but in the language of analytical psychology, this is the last, most essential lesson of your freedom, the final threshold of individuation. You were seeking reunion with the catalyst in its personal form, the physical, human object of love. But the catalyst, in its archetypal form, now stands as the transcendent. Physical contact is no longer the bridge. The connection must rise from the personal to the spiritual, from the human to the archetypal. Jung would say, this is the moment to withdraw your projection of the self from the external object. If the old man were to touch the resurrected body of the experience, he would collapse back into the old way of being, seeking security in outer love, depending on an external presence to validate his faith. You would become a dependent again, not a carrier of wholeness. The prohibition is not rejection, it is a command for autonomy. Noli me tangere means do not cling to the old way of loving and depending. The proof of my presence is no longer in touch, but in the certainty I awakened within you. Authority now lives in yourself. You must transform passionate love into wise love. This is the final transmutation of your animus. If before he defended your gnosis, now he must free you from your last attachment. Logos and Eros unite to teach you that wholeness is internal, non-transferable. This lesson seals your destiny. You do not simply believe in resurrection, transformation. You become its psychological image. You no longer need proof. You are the proof. Yet this encounter with truth does not bring social relief. It brings isolation. The collective shadow that once called you sinner or failure now returns as skepticism, as disbelief. They seek proof, the evidence demanded by Logos, while you carry certainty, the knowing born of Eros. This separation is cruel, but essential. You realize the truth you hold cannot be validated by those still locked in the binary of the mind. They call you too emotional or visionary, new labels for the same old rejection of the sacred feminine. You are forced into a radical decision to abandon the need to be believed. Your path cannot be collective anymore. It must be Gnostic, the direct knowing of the soul. This is the moment of radical self-acceptance. You accept that your truth is yours alone, that self-approval is the only authority that matters. Noli me tangere was never just an external barrier. It was an internal command. Do not cling to the old self. Do not return to the old structures of power or affection. Wholeness lives within you now. You release the last remnant of dependence on the masculine outer world. The old man dies completely. He cannot stand without hierarchy. You become your own spiritual authority. The wholeness you reached is the only true inheritance of your resurrection. The world wanted you to carry the message of submission. Instead, you carry the message of the union of opposites. But after this separation, you meet a new, frightening horizon, the void of certainty. And if your gnosis is merely hysteria, as they suggested, you must now face the dark night of the soul. You obeyed the command of Noli me tangere, and freed yourself from the need to be validated by external doubt. Yet now you enter a new and terrifying form of isolation. It is not the isolation imposed by judgment, the collective shadow, but the void of certainty. The figure who served as your spiritual catalyst, the master, the job, the relationship that ended, is gone. The collective shadow has been dismissed, and at the center of your soul there is only silence. This solitude confronts you with the most insidious question the mind can create. What if I'm wrong? What if my gnosis, my intuitive knowing, was only hysteria, just as they suggested? What if the wholeness I felt was nothing more than my desperate hunger for meaning? This is the dark night of the soul, the moment when the seeker must face the possibility that his entire journey was built on illusion. Jung would describe this time as the ego's final stripping of projection, painful but essential. As long as the catalyst was present, you risked projecting your inner divinity, the self, onto them. The emptiness you feel now forces you to withdraw that projection. The outer figure disappeared so you could finally find the spirit, your essence, within your own depths. You must prove that your faith comes from your own inner experience, not from an external source. Logos, the rational voice, whispers that without proof there is no truth. But the empty tomb is not a puzzle for the intellect. It is a psychological command. Wholeness is not out there. Wholeness is in you. The void awakens the primordial fear, the terror of final abandonment. Not just the loss of a person, but the fear of being abandoned by your own truth. To your wounded child, this emptiness feels like the end. It is the ego's last maneuver, clinging to the comfort of having an external source of power. But you have become the pilgrim, and the pilgrim knows that the only map is the unconscious. Crisis deepens into acceptance. You must confront the shadow of being utterly alone, the realization that truth often is a path for the few. This is the place where many turn back, running to the safety of dogma. But you have tasted wholeness. You refuse to return. Surrendering to the void is not defeat. It is the final victory over the fear of not belonging. You understand then that the fear of emptiness was only the last illusion. By surrendering to it, you discover fullness. You stop seeking proof in the past and open yourself to the flow of the future, the road your anima, your intuition, has been calling you toward. The transmutation of this pain is the final act of your individuation. What the world sees as loneliness, you internalize as absolute authority. You have no temple. Your body is the temple. You have no sermon. Your life is the sermon. This wholeness, born through crisis, sets you free. The command of Noli me tangere echoed through your soul. It was never just about releasing the body of the master. It was about releasing the old self, the self who depended on external figures of power to validate its faith. You have become the source, the center, the self in motion. You have survived the void, yet the physical absence confronts you. The empty tomb was a message. What is the unconscious language hidden in this loss? What does the vanished body teach you about the archetype of resurrection and about the wholeness that has now awakened in you? You survived the dark night of the soul and freed yourself from the ego's last grip. Yet the physical absence of the one who catalyzed your wholeness still echoes through you. Your grief is not only for the loss of the figure, but for the loss of the object where your projection once lived. and that loss was absolutely necessary. The empty tomb, the void left by what departed, was never a riddle for reason to solve. It was a psychological command. Wholeness is not outside, wholeness is in you. This was the true turning point in the narrative of your soul. Jung would say that the catalyst in its archetypal form had fulfilled the role of self-guide. The psychic energy you once projected outward had to be withdrawn and brought home. The body vanished so you could discover the spirit, the essence within yourself. The mourning of the old man transmuted into gnosis, direct knowing. You realize the catalyst's message was never about the story, it was always about the archetype. The event of resurrection, your transformation, is not a miracle set apart from life, but the archetypal pattern of psychic rebirth, the union of opposites, life rising from death, light unfolding from shadow. You see the language of the unconscious written openly in the world. Your task now is not to grieve the loss, but to carry the archetype of resurrection. This frees you from dogma. You no longer need rules, you had the experience. The wholeness you feel is the union of the sacred feminine, eros, with the spiritual masculine, logos. You are living proof that integration is possible. There is no longer separation between body and soul, only completeness. What the world sought as a miracle, you recognize as a psychic process. And that is why you were chosen to carry the message, because you were the only one prepared to internalize the truth entirely. Your pain became the fuel of your final authority. Your experience was never passive, it was a command to act. The force of the self rose through the void. Your mission now is to carry the message of individuation, the process of becoming whole, into a world that fractures itself more each day. Your certainty is unshakable because it is self-generated. You no longer need external signs. Your own transformation is the sign. The collective shadow that once condemned you can no longer touch you. You have integrated your own shadow. You cannot be labeled anymore. You are wholeness walking. You are the messenger of the inner divine, but carrying wholeness in a fragmented world is a burden. Where will you take this wisdom, and how will you defend it from the collective shadow that still lurks, seeking cracks to enter? You must plant the seed of truth in new soil, soil that can hold the fire you now bear. You obeyed the command of Noli me tangere, and in doing so transcended personal pain. You became an archetypal legacy. Your final destiny is no longer to seek the catalyst who departed, but to become the messenger of wholeness. Your physical body is beyond the grasp of touch, and your soul is free from all external dependence. Your legacy becomes the living proof of the need to rescue the sacred feminine, eros, in a world ruled by the rigidity of logos, the masculine reason. Where logos insists on hierarchy and separation, the eros you embody insists on connection and wholeness. The essence of your legacy is permission. Permission for intuition to be honored as spiritual authority. Permission for knowledge to be felt, not only reasoned. Permission for your psyche to be whole without seeking external validation. Your journey becomes the face of individuation for a principle longing for balance. You proved that wholeness, the encounter with the self, is not a masculine privilege nor a dogmatic achievement. It emerges only when one possesses the courage to integrate their own shadow, the instincts, the forbidden emotions, and their own animus, strength, discernment, into a single unified being. Your legacy teaches that strength is never the repression of tears, rage, or vulnerability, as the collective shadow demands, but the integration of these forces into wisdom. You proved that the one who embraces their vulnerability is in truth the strongest, for they do not fear the full spectrum of their human experience. The separation from your former companions, though painful, became the shield that preserved your message. You carry the message of the body, the wisdom that spirit lives in matter, in defiance of dogma, which so often tries to deny the body, deny the feeling, deny the soul's flesh. Your legacy belongs not to the past, but to our present. Your story is the mirror that reveals how deeply modern collective shadow still tries to fracture us. How often are we labeled too emotional or too visionary when we are simply exercising our sacred feminine? Your call is for all of us to reclaim the anima and the eros that were exiled. It is a call to trust intuition under the weight of logic and to honor feeling as a legitimate form of wisdom. Your legacy is this: the most radical act of faith is often to believe in oneself. You, the pilgrim, continue your journey in silence. Your life became legend, for you reached what all seek, the peace born from the radical acceptance of who you are, with all your shadows, all your light, and all the authority of the self. You gave us the key to wholeness, but the key must be used. Carrying wholeness in a world of fragmentation is unsustainable. Where will the sacred feminine lead you now? And how will your solitary path prove the strength of yourself? The answer lies in the sea and in the wisdom of the earth. You reached wholeness, and yet carrying this fullness in a world still ruled by fragmentation, by the collective shadow, became impossible. To protect the purity of your gnosis, your direct knowledge of the soul, you needed one final act of separation, the solitary journey. This journey, whispered in apocryphal legends, is the psychological epilogue of your story. You did not withdraw out of fear, but out of spiritual necessity. Your message and your body could not survive within the rigid, dogmatic structures of your time. You had to travel toward a land where the sacred feminine could still breathe, far from the dominion of logos. Jung saw the solitary path as the critical phase of individuation, the moment when the individual must prove that wholeness can stand without the scaffolding of the collective. For you, this meant boarding a rudderless vessel, guided only by the intuition that had rescued you. The sea carried you onward, and the symbolism was profound. The sea is the collective unconscious, the realm of primordial feminine power. You surrendered literally to the kingdom of your anima, leaving the land-bound logic behind to follow the waterborne intuition. It was a radical act of faith in your inner truth. You brought no scrolls, no rules, no doctrine, only the legacy of feeling. Your mission was never to convert nations, but to plant the seed of wholeness in soil where it could thrive, among cultures that still revered the feminine principle. You became a bridge between Eastern wisdom and the chthonic energies of the West. By living the life of a pilgrim, you gave the integration a body. You navigated by strength, the integrated animus, but chose your direction by intuition, the integrated anima. Your solitary existence became a living prayer, a proof that final healing is self-generated and immune to persecution. Legends say you did not die, you dissolved into the earth itself, becoming an immortal archetype of intuitive knowledge. You passed your gnosis, your vision of wholeness, to those capable of receiving it, the outcasts, the mystics, the ones who sought truth beyond official structures. Your final legacy was not only the search for yourself, but the legacy of the shadow. By accepting your past, the old man, and integrating it with your future, the sage, you taught us that redemption is never the denial of the dark, but its embrace and integration. Wholeness, the self, is reached only when we recognize the divine within our humanity, with all its fractures and all its brilliance. The solitary path was not exile, it was the embodiment of your final freedom. You were the first to prove that true authority belongs to the one brave enough to be whole, even if it means walking alone. You became wholeness itself, and your life became the message. You completed the work. You left us the legacy of the shadow, and the legacy of the sacred feminine. Now your story becomes our mirror. You gave us the key. But one question remains. What final command does this wisdom demand from you? The journey of symbolic death ends where every true journey begins, within us. You who survived the death of the old man left us a key, not a golden key, but a key of radical acceptance. The pilgrim of the self taught us that the greatest danger is not the judgment of the world, the collective shadow, but the judgment we turn inward, the refusal to honor our own eros, our own feeling, our own intuition. Your legacy is not meant to be admired from afar, it is meant to be lived. The wholeness you reached, the self, is our own self, waiting to be uncovered. Your story is the mirror that asks, what part of you did society force you to hide? What power did you condemn to the shadow just to be seen as appropriate, as strong? The wisdom of your transformation distills into one psychological command. Accept the shadow, not to be punished by it, but to integrate the strength it guards. Your tears, your anger, your vulnerability, these are the languages of your soul. Strength is not the refusal of feeling, it is the fullness of it. True authority belongs to the one brave enough to be human. And this humanity is the union of reason and heart. You are the proof that the final healing is spiritual autonomy. You are your own authority. You are your own evidence. If the story of the old man and his symbolic death touched the shadow you carry, if you feel the call to reclaim your voice and your inner wholeness, your soul work must begin now. Subscribe to Shadow Work Stories and activate the bell so you don't miss the next archetypal journey. Our channel is not only about stories, it is about transforming pain into wisdom and what was silenced into voice. Leave your like if you believe in the power of wholeness, and click the video on your screen to continue diving into the journey of the self. The next step is always deeper. Remember, your self is waiting. Wholeness is your destiny.